So hey everyone, it's Emma Darcy from the Marketing Success Summit, the online virtual summit that helps you with your marketing, your PR, your sales, and to help you guys be it a startup or a medium-sized enterprise. And if you're looking for help with your marketing, this is the place to be. So today I'm really delighted to introduce you all to a stalwart of Irish media. So today I have Conall Morain. I think I have it pronounced correctly. It's an Irish name, as you can all tell if you're not based in Ireland. So I'd like to really welcome you today, Conall, because I'm truly delighted to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. And my name was beautifully said.
Thank you. As I just said to you, the stint in Irish college does help. So, I mean, just guys, you may not be familiar with Conall if you're not based in Ireland. I think anybody that's based in Ireland will definitely have come across Conall. He's had a stellar career in media, a lifetime career in media. At present, he is presenting the Sunday Business Show, which is a nationwide radio show every Sunday, obviously. This is based online as well. There is a podcast, isn't that right, Conall?
There are podcasts. You can get us on any which way. We go out live via the internet to any of the people stateside, and obviously we go out FM nationwide, as you mentioned, as well.
Great. So if guys, I really highly recommend that you listen in on Sundays. There's some terrific interviews, terrific entrepreneurs that Conall is interviewing, and I'd really highly recommend it. There's also actually some great competitions that they run as well. So there's no harm tuning in that you might be able to avail of some of the competitions that they have as well. And I suppose just reading your biography, Conall, I was just really blown away because, you know, you've been commentating on business and economic matters for many years. You've worked with RTE for a long time, and for American and UK viewers, basically this is our national broadcaster, and it's the equivalent to the BBC in the UK. So it's really a big deal if you're presenting or working with RTE. We also have Radio na Gaeltachta, which is again an Irish radio station. We have News Talk, which again is a massive it's a news podium and is very well regarded in Ireland, particularly for business and more serious matters. The BBC, you've done work for the BBC. Tina G, again an Irish channel, a TV channel, and you've written on economic matters, national newspapers. You have a successful PR company. You also established a local newspaper, produced TV documentaries. You've been a business correspondent, and I mean, you've just done so much. Which is just amazing. And I suppose really what I'm hoping that you can share with the listeners today is basically, obviously you're coming from more of a traditional and indeed a digital media perspective. You're dealing with these economic and business matters. You're, interviewing people all the time. So I'm just looking for some insights that you've gained, because, again, I'm a marketing consultant and I'm a big fan of radio and, looking beyond and looking outside the box. So can you just give us maybe a little bit of insight into kind of, what you've learned over the years, any gems of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Gems of wisdom from Conall Morain. That'll be a first phrase, throwing false diamonds to real swine or something. I mean, the first thing that I'll say is that business changes all of the time. For good or for ill, I do go way back into business and in media. Even when I was in college, I was involved in media there. And I've just seen the changes. And one of the things about media is just like any other business, you have to change with it. We were chatting off air there about a great phrase that is constantly used nowadays by almost every business, which is to pivot. When they no longer want to buy your sweets from your sweet shop, that sweet shop still has some value. You've got to pivot. Stick in your skateboard, stick in your hockey stick, stick in something else if that is what you're trying to do, is trying to sell. Find an audience or find a market. And great people, as you've very kindly mentioned about the Sunday Business Show, we do what we call 6 and 60, 6 items in 60 minutes. And we try to have about 2 or 3 startups every Sunday. And those startups could literally range. Most recently, I had Mina from a Nougat company. There's Plink, which is going to pay your bills in a different way. It literally crosses all types of businesses. And if there is one truism about business, and as you mentioned, I do write an awful lot about it, is the dedication of the entrepreneur doesn't ever change. We're all nuts. Everybody in business is nuts.
Thank you.
If you are going to stay in business and take all the punches in the face and in other bodily parts, and then come back for more and wake up on Monday morning and say, I'll do that again, and then by Friday be worried that there's no money in the bank, and on Monday open again, there's only one description for it: you must be nuts. So a takeaway is resilience.
Yes.
One of the great things, brilliant thing that I've learned, now I hope this applies in other jurisdictions in the States. In the States where we actually have audience for the Sunday Business Show, there's a lady in Florida who gets out of her bed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning to listen to us live, that kind of stuff. One of the things that I've learned, because I also go around to business events, like the Was Up events I was down there in Tralee with one, they're in Limerick, I go down to Cork, places like that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember at the Was Up Tralee one, now again, for those outside the jurisdiction, Tralee is down at the very southwest tip of this tiny little country. It's still a bit of a drive. It's an absolutely beautiful place. It is very small. There is a business down there called Dairy Master that employs 450 people, and it's a fellow called Dr. Ed Harty. Ed is a seriously successful business person. I think he may have been an EY Entrepreneur of the Year, so he's absolutely at that level. It's a worldwide business running from the very tip, the southwesterly tip of Ireland. And my point in referencing Ed Harty is that he turned up at this Was Up event, which was for startups. It's the Wild Atlantic Way Startup Festival. Was Up Festival is from, I remember. Ed Harty, serious businessman, gave a half a day just to sit on a panel, chat away to people who, again, were in such diverse businesses. I can't actually remember the exact businesses, but again, a needle to an anchor. He makes high-tech dairy, manufactures dairy engineering product. But his insights into business, it reminds me of those people, anybody who may have, who was familiar with rugby, with a scrum. In a scrum, 6 very large men come around each other or more, and they push all to trying to get a ball across a line. In business, that doesn't have to be men, it's men and women. We're very good at the Sunday Business Show. We insist on gender balance and on regional balance. We try, and again, probably in the Sunday Business Show, we do something similar because we call it Team SBS. We try to come behind those people in business, big, small, any type of business, try to help them across the line. To find a new market, we ran a series, for example, where we introduced people to markets in Turkey, Britain, Brazil, etc. Enterprise Ireland being wonderful help in doing all of that. And we introduced people to the cultures in those countries so that, again, anything that we could do, we have a strapline for the program, we have a number of them. One of them is get off the island. We have 4.5 million people in the Republic. We are, and I've done the maths, 0.00006% of the world's population.
Oh, goodness.
If you were to say to me, where is my market? Is it in the 0.0 or is it in the rest? I say the rest. Yes. So we say to people, no matter what business you're in, get off the island. Just as you've done, Emma, you've internationalized yourself because we are too small. That's 4.5 million in total. And I split that into young and old, and the numbers get very small very quickly. So that's one takeaway, is get the mentorship, the backing, the free help from other business people. The only time that business people will not help you is if you're going to eat their lunch. So if you're in a sweet shop, don't go and ask the other sweet shop owner how he or she does it. But you know, you're in business. The basic truths of business are the same. Get your invoices out. Make sure that you're not reliant on one customer. keep watching that market to make sure that not when, but not, excuse me, not if, but when things change, that there's something else that you can switch into, so that
Yes.
you're not left being a farrier, a maker of horseshoes when the horses died off. I do a lot of media training, and one of the slides that I put up is that in 1900 in Britain, the year 1900 in Britain, there were 1 million working horses then. By the start of the First World War, there were 25,000 working horses.
Wow.
Now, there is a business that
Yes.
you would not have wanted to be in. There might have been a little bit of excess horseshoes in Britain in 1915, 1914, 1915. So you always have to keep an eye on the market. You also have to, social media and the internet has made keeping an eye on up and coming trends much easier. There was a time, I suppose 20 years ago, you'd have to go off to trade exhibitions, you'd have to people, of course, use that. That's a great excuse to go on lovely holidays to New York.
Never.
Market research. There's a lot of market research done in bars and nightclubs and things. But there are so many forums or fora that will open up to you about what's happening in my market. There's Smart Company, I think, is one of the many emails that I follow. And that's an Australian email that comes into me aimed at SMEs in Australia. And like they have a shared experience, they have a shared language. I'm forever watching that to see, is there something happening in Australia that I could actually import here, a franchise or an add-on to something? And there's another one that in the UK, a lovely publication that I get every morning called The Drum. The Drum is aimed at media. Now, of course, my huge love, my only interest in life really is media. But they cover, and again, free and for nothing, another one of the Sunday Business Show's straplines is "We like free." It's our four-letter word beginning with F, and anything like that, where your resources from the very clever people. The Drum is beautifully written, and it's got insights coming out of the UK about anything to do with media. These are available. So if you're in the cats and dogs homes, in fact, on behalf of some clients, I keep an eye on nursing homes, for example.
Okay.
There are tons of things about nursing homes out there for free that you can watch all the trends in. You can see who's buying whom, how much they're going for, what the add-ons in the nursing home business might be. There's a big growth that I've been watching recently in the special care homes within nursing homes. So therefore, for people with more severe autism and stuff like that, there are special homes. There's a big industry in that. So if you are looking at the nursing home business in Ireland, you might say, now, I'm going to expand, but I better not be reliant wholly on just the aged sector. Let's find some other sectors as well. There's always an angle. So that'll be the second takeaway. Using the media, of course. I mean, that's probably why I'm on here.
Not at all.
It's easier than people think. It just does need, and again, you know this as well, it just does need application. There are local newspapers, there is local media like local radio that will want local content all of the time. Only finding an angle on it. I'm thinking aloud now about anything that's coming into my head. You're a local hotel or you're a local fishmonger. If there is a nice big fish caught locally, that's the one that you have your photograph taken with, and free and for nothing, because it's going to be taken on your iPhone or your smartphone. You will take a photograph of you, the fisher, man, woman, and the fish, and that's local media. You send that into local radio and say, anybody who's interested, there was a 15-pound salmon caught on the river here and wherever I am. That'll be for sale in my shop. If you want to come down and see it, it's the biggest one I've seen in 2 generations.
Right.
we can be a little bit loose with our, because nobody's going to come back and say, I remember a big old. They'll go back far. If you claim far enough back, they won't be able to prove it. So then you go to national, and you very kindly name check the Sunday Business Show for our competitions. There's an animal that not many people outside of radio know about. They're called prize pigs.
Okay.
Pigs are those people who apply to radio stations for every prize that there are. What they don't know is that they are already pre-identified as being prize pigs, and prize pigs trotters are not allowed near the keyboard. They're chucked. All radio stations that I've ever worked in are pretty straight and honest about where prizes go to. Now, of your viewers or listeners today to this thing, I'm sure chunks, if not the majority of them, buy lotto tickets. Lotto tickets, the chances of winning are, I don't know, is it 25 million to 1 or something? And yet they will go and spend 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 euro on a 25 million 1 to 1 chance. I can tell you that a radio competition, you could get the odds back down to something like 100 or 2 or 300 to 1.
Okay.
And most importantly, because back to business, first of all, you can win something for your business, great. But more importantly, a shout out or some recognition, free and for nothing, for your business. People, certainly at the Sunday Business Show, we like to, I mentioned that we refer to our listeners as Team SBS. If we can identify people as helping others in business, we want to identify them and say, well done you. You're a part of Team SBS. We will help you now. So, Emma, we're going to give your marketing company a big shout out now. Listen, guys, she's good, she's fair, she's nice, she helps others. Why don't you help her? And it costs me, for those who know their radio, it's 3 words per second. So if it takes me 10 seconds, I can get 30 words to say, back Emma. That's not even 1 second.
Yeah.
Back Emma's marketing company. That's 1 second and 1 1/3 seconds. So people can be very generous with time on radio in particular. Also, if you solve problems for people on radio, that always helps. If somebody says, I'm looking for somebody in Chicago or Cincinnati who wants my new Irish boiled sweets, if you get on to us, for example, there are business programs on every one of the major national stations. If you get on to us and say, just heard Emma there looking for somebody in Cincinnati who'll buy her sweets. My Aunt Mary is a distributor of sweets in Cincinnati. I'll put her in touch with them. We would get that very regularly.
Wow, that's great, and that's a good one to know.
Another one that all businesses need, almost all of the time, is funding, extra funding or sources of funding. We would have very, very good working relationships with the local enterprise offices, what we call the LEOs. And after that, as they get larger, once you go to 10 or more employees, you move on to Enterprise Ireland. And we'd work with them to promote any promotions that they would have. They run, for example, entrepreneur programs for women. The value is fantastic. I know quite a number of the women who have gone through those programs, and there is one called Access Silicon Valley run by Enterprise Ireland. If you have a tech company that needs and should be based or selling into Silicon Valley, Enterprise Ireland bring you there. And it's a fantastic operation. So coming back to the help from people, we also do shout outs for funding for people. Now, I can only say that it happened once, because it has happened post program more than once, but while we were on air, there was a woman on, possibly, the way the time moves quite fast, it's possibly over a year ago now that she was on, and before she left studio, and she's only on, our slots are 8 minutes long, at studio, we had got somebody offering to fund her.
Wow.
That made success. And she was looking for chunky money. We're not talking about 200 quid now. We're talking about, I can't remember, maybe 10,000, maybe 50,000. I can't remember.
Okay. Substantial amount of money.
Correct. So we tried, and beforehand, when I'm prepping for the program, I'll tell any interviewee is that whatever you want to shout out, So if you've got a new range coming out, make sure you put it out. It's up to you. You are, anybody in business knows this, your own salesperson.
Yes.
And my job as an interviewer is to try to make it interesting for the listener, to highlight, did you know that before Emma went into marketing, she was a ballet dancer? Now, how did you get from ballet dancer into marketing? And that to the listener says, okay, you see, you're back to that word, pivot.
Yes.
I ran out of time in the ballet studio. My time was up there and I needed to reinvent myself. All back to my rugby players. All rugby players are given training almost before they start playing at a senior level in other businesses, because they know that their career on the pitch could be only 6 years or 8 years long. And after that, they're given something else to do. So similarly, on the radio program, I will go in and I will say to we'll have a minimum of 6 guests since we do 6 items. Whatever you want to shout out, you shout out. But make sure that it is, obviously about the business. But if you need funding, just tell me now, and I'll raise the issue and I'll say, oh, do you need funding by any chance?
Yes.
Are there to help. I'm not, the style of our business show, all business shows really, is not trying to catch people out and say, did you pay your taxes back in 1978? That's not the style. We're feature program. We are trying to help people be successful in businesses. Again, for people outside the jurisdiction here, that they won't know that there are 200,000 small and medium enterprise businesses in this country who employ half of the workforce. It's such an important area, tiny, tiny little country. And of those, like an SME in this country is probably less than 10 employees. Overseas, anywhere overseas, they call those micro industries. I mean, a medium enterprise in Germany is 400 or 500 people. That's large.
Yes. Well, they've got a population of 64 million or something like that. So it's significantly different.
So I've covered there local radio, local newspapers, and again, access. Make a name for yourself. Be helpful. If you are in flooring, for example, if you sell carpets, why not offer the local newspaper a flooring column? You may say they won't want it. Everybody's got a flooring issue. He needs an agony aunt for flooring, or something that I'm currently interested in is stoves. I'm going to buy myself a stove. And if I saw a stove column somewhere, and ideally a stove column locally, I'm a buyer and I will read that. And therefore, if it's useful and if it's Emma's stoves, well, guess what? I'm going to go down to Emma because she's been useful to me. She's given me free advice and she appears to be upfront and honest. So.
Very good. Actually, on that, I actually know somebody that supplies stoves. So after this, I'll give you a name and I'm sure you'll get a good price.
Very good. And then we move to the national. And then TV is particularly difficult. Of course, everybody would love to be big on TV. But you know what? There aren't, certainly for businesses, there are almost no business slots on TV. When there is, it's about big stories about, Apple hiring 1,000 people or something. Mrs. Murphy's small bed and breakfast or sweet shop ain't going to make TV. It's getting more and more, TV itself is getting more and more difficult. Another area that's worth looking into, it's only in its infancy in this country, really. And for me, the jury is still out on it, is podcasting. I don't know whether you do podcasts, but these are audio podcasts now rather than what you're doing with me here. But audio podcasts are hugely successful in the States. In particular, one of the most listened to ones is car.com or something like that. Now, it's no longer being made because the guys, they didn't run out of space, they ran out of age. They were two older gentlemen who had obviously worked in cars all of their lives, and Emma would ring up and say, my 1967 Chevy has a bit of a rumble in the back axle. What do you think? And they would give you this medical diagnosis over the radio, and they had, I think, they would have had 14 million listeners.
Wow, that's amazing.
phenomenal. And it would be that Chuck or whatever his name was. Yeah, I remember working on one of those. What happened there was the left-hand side sprocket was this, that, and the other. It was how these guys would knew so much. I love people like that. People who carry around these fantastic pieces of information in their heads and just pull it out. No notes. I have a woman who comes down to the radio program, the woman from Goodbody Stockbrokers called Laura Devoy. She, we normally pre-arrange, obviously, that we do an item called the business behind the brand. So it'll be Gucci or Ryanair or some of those brands.
Yes.
But I know with her that if I asked her any brand suddenly, without any preparation, that she has it in here as well.
Yes.
So I'm fascinated by those people who retain incredible amounts of information in there. So again, if you have that kind of information about something, local radio would probably like to talk to you. Let's say that your hobby was cinema. If you could make it, and your business may not have anything to do with cinema, but if you go on and suddenly present yourself for 3 or 4 minutes once a week about cinema, 10 facts that people didn't know, brought to you by Conall and Morain from Conall and Morain Sweet Shop down on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Brand recognition for
Yes.
3 or 4 minutes, and you're telling them about your hobby.
Yeah.
Pretty free, as in very free, and it is very easy and it's very enjoyable. Utterly, in fact, anybody who's been on the radio program with me will know that I sit back in my chair on a Sunday morning while on air when we've gone through ads or something, and I just say, I just love this.
That's fantastic. It's great to have that love. And I love some of the gems of wisdom you were sharing there about getting mentors, about, I think, looking outside the box in terms of, just like if you're looking for a local show, it doesn't have to be about your business. It can be your hobby. But as you rightly say, your business is going to be mentioned, and therefore brand recognition. And you become the go-to person to go to, be it for cars, be it that you're a coach, that you're an accountant, a marketer, whatever it is that you might be. So, I mean, I think that's great. So thank you, Conall. That is really amazing to get some of those insights.
Can I give you one last one on that?
Yeah.
Because what you said there, the go-to person. Radio is like many other aspects of life. We go to the people who are nice, and we go to the people who are available. If you're nice and available, you will be used.
I like that, actually, because there's actually a term bandied about on the internet. I don't know if you've heard of it, that people need to know, trust, and like you to buy from you. And I think it's very similar. And also, I suppose, the idea that people buy from people.
Yes.
Rather than kind of corporations or your business, it's actually you they're buying from, as opposed to. So I like that. Could you just say that one again? I nearly need to write that down.
See, this is my problem. These thoughts come into my head. What you're going to do is you're going to be nice and you're going to be available.
Yeah, nice and available. I like it.
When my radio show needs somebody in a hurry, I don't want you to say, oh, well, if only you'd phoned me yesterday. That's no good to me. I need you now.
Yes, yeah.
Those people are there, and they're brilliant, and they're lovely, and we use them all the time.
Brilliant. And can you tell me, just in terms of, you actually mentioned documentaries just in your biography as well, that you've done documentaries in the past. And actually, it just got me thinking as to opportunities for people going forward. As you said, either in particular industries that are really interesting to people, be it about cars or, whatever the case is. I think with live stream, like Facebook Live, Periscope, and it's opening up the marketplace where, in effect, people can create their own documentary, their own TV channel. And I know you were saying you started them, and I know it might have been dropped maybe from RTE, from the national broadcaster, but that's not to say that there isn't a marketplace. And I'm just wondering, what would be your thoughts on somebody kind of having a regular TV/documentary show that's relevant to their industry?
Oh, it's a great idea, but your problem is getting identified or recognized for it. There's one, you're going to find out very quickly that I'm very keen on cars. So I'm actually trying to make a TV series about cars at the moment. But the Jay Leno's Garage, your American listeners will be very familiar with it. That is a magnificent half hour of Jay Leno driving around, and he's talking like those people that I spoke about before.
Right.
I think he was a car salesman at some stage when he was a kid, and he remembers and he adds in the history and all, but it's compulsive viewing for people like me. how and ever
Mm-hmm.
he had the Jay Leno brand to bring.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there are so many minor, mini types of these shows on. Trying to get traction is a real problem. And to do that, and again, you may be able to advise them on this, but it's actually trying to hawk yourself, drag yourself, push yourself through social media, and trying to find people who will tie up in, who will link up through social media. That's about the only way that you're really going to get any traction there. Very, very slow, very, very hard, unless you're exceptionally talented.
Right.
You're a talented singer or something. But if you're a talented singer, what are you doing selling sweets? Go sing and make your fortune at that. Similarly with podcasts, but that doesn't mean that onto your own website that you wouldn't put up tiny
Yes.
mini. Don't go any further. I mean, certainly nothing further longer than 12 minutes. But you can, like your little mini videos now can be 2-3 minutes. And
Yes.
I just bought this new, I don't know, hockey stick, and I just liked it, and here it is. I'm sure that you have done it so often nowadays yourself. If I'm trying to fix anything at home here, first thing I do is onto YouTube and see how would you fix such and such, a Philips fan or something.
Mm.
And, there are millions of people up there who seem very keen to do to help me,
Yes.
and again for free and for nothing. So. Trying to, you mentioned Periscope as well. We used Periscope on the radio program a couple of times to no real effect. Now, we have a national brand and we didn't really get any pickup on it. Do you know why? One of the reasons I think Periscope itself has probably disappeared. I don't know whether you're familiar with people
Yeah.
who are
Yeah. Yeah.
at the moment, but I saw it, I took it up, I used it and put it down again. But on a radio program, nothing much happens. Like with
Yes.
pictures need moving pictures. That's why movies are called movies, and radio is called radio. And I've never really understood when radio stations have put cameras into their radio studios, because they are terribly dirty, as in unkempt, and they are boring, because I'm sitting there with two big sets of cans on, and you can't see anybody else because, you'd have to, it's a pointless exercise. So am I a fan of it? I never say never or never say no, but personalize it into you. It's got to be you as a brand.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're just telling me about light bulbs, nah, I'll look at it and move on. But if you sell me next thing I'll be saying, God, Emma, there's a very good person about light bulbs there. We might get him or her onto the radio program.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're kind of saying leveraging it from what you're saying, and story and motion. So not static sort of talking at people.
Well, static is dead, isn't it? I mean, it says there's not what the word comes from. I'm sure my Latin or my Greek will come back to me. But anyway, it means no movement.
Yes.
And so that's why not stick? Let's say that you're, I don't know, if you're trying to sell a house, why not walk around the house with your smartphone and stick it up there and say, my favorite room, and then tell a little story about having had 45 people. This room is only 4 foot by 4 foot, but I've had 45 people in here. Great nights here. Shame I have to sell it, but when life moves on, etc.
Yeah. So there's an angle on it.
And we love stories. Everybody loves a story. As you said it there earlier, people sell. And people sell by telling stories.
Actually, just on that point, I suppose when you're in business, and I suppose originally kind of the corporate way of doing things, which is very generic, and you're putting out about the business and whatever. And I suppose, like you mentioned, there's 200,000 odd small to medium businesses in Ireland, and which some of them could be referred to as micro businesses. And I'm just wondering, would you be an advocate for the entrepreneur story as well? In terms of, like, if somebody's pitching, say, to your radio station, or they're pitching to a newspaper, or in general they're wanting to kind of be more personable, do you feel that the personal story of the entrepreneur is an important facet?
Yes, it's a quick answer, because and I know exactly why. We need, you make paper bags, fine. You make a lot of them, fine. And you might tell the story as to how you got from making paper bags in Ireland to making paper bags in China. That's grand. But we also, it is in what we call infotainment, so it's information and
Mhm.
entertainment. I need somebody who's entertaining as well. If you came along and told me that you were making paper bags, you see what I'm not even, you're
Yes,
laughing already because you know nobody's going to listen to that. And I
yes,
tell people before going on air, and some people are never done radio. I had two people on last Sunday, I think, who had never done radio, and they were as nervous as hell. And I told them if they tell me a joke, they'll win. And it's about that. It's about we try. It's Sunday morning we're on as well.
yeah,
We try to be fun. So that's why when I mentioned you as a ballerina, I want to see a different angle that brings something into it to make a person's head go, what? Oh, she was a ballerina before. They won't necessarily remember that your company name is Emma's Paper Bags, but they'll remember, oh yeah, that she was a ballerina. It's the ballerina woman who makes the paper
yeah.
bag.
They remember the story.
The story is what stays. And again, we are in business just like everybody watching this. And what we're doing is we're trying to create an audience and keep an audience. And one of the aims that we would have in choosing our 6 in 60 or 6 items in 60 minutes is that on Monday, we're out on Sunday, so on Monday morning, that Emma sidles up to the water cooler and says, God, I was listening to this thing on Today FM yesterday, and there was this woman on, and you know what? She used to be a ballerina, and then she went into making paper bags. She sounded really good. I think she might have the paper bags we're looking for.
Yeah.
And my water cooler moment, because I linked it in her head with ballerina, paper bags,
Yeah.
something useful there.
Yeah, it's an association, isn't it? So it's associating the business, which is a generic, like paper bags, in fairness, generic. So be it you're selling ice cream or whatever it is, but there's that association.
And our ice cream maker, though, they are possibly the most passionate people I've ever come across.
Okay, right.
Their brand, and their brand only, is completely different to all other brands.
It's the same with every business, Conall, didn't you know?
There is that, as I say, but there are some who are more aggressive, let me put it that way,
Sure.
and ice cream makers. And I'll give a shout out here. Now, see, some people come on to the radio show, and there's, again, back to the southwest of the country, down in Kerry, Murphy's Ice Creams, which is made in Dingle.
Okay.
It is ice cream to die for. Now, I have no sweet tooth. I am not a ice cream nut, but it is easily the best ice cream I've ever had in my life. They drove up 5 hours to do an 8-minute item. That's why I'm willing to give them a shout out now.
Yeah.
They backed Team SBS. They're in or on Team SBS. I'm backing them. That's the way the world works.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I've never heard of them. So Murphy's Ice Creams, in Tralee, I'm going to have to try that, definitely for sure.
We also have an outlet on Wicklow Street in Dublin as well.
Okay, because I do have a sweet tooth, so I surely eat some.
Well, bring a wallet with you because it's not the cheapest, but it
The
is
quality, I'm sure the quality. You can tell I used to work in sales a bit. Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually, just on kind of what you're saying as well, because you're also the managing director of a media group. So since 2001, you operate in that sphere of PR. You mentioned earlier before we started talking about that you've been, I suppose, advising or working even with some government bodies and I'm sure businesses as well. I'm very keen for people to start thinking outside the box because while social media is great and don't get me wrong, it is important, as you say, there is a hustle there behind it, but just for people to start thinking traditional, like you've been talking about, pitching to the radio, pitching to your local and indeed your national papers. But again, going back to you being the managing director of the media group, have you any say 2 or 3 tips that you could share with people of PR they can apply in their business, or when somebody comes to you, what's kind of the first 2 or 3 things you'd say to them?
Well, let me start by going off piste for a second. About a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, I saw a yellow lump of paper outside my front door. And when I picked it up, it was what I thought it was, a blast from the past. They are, and this will surprise people from other jurisdictions, they are still delivering the golden pages to houses, homes, and businesses in this country. For those of you who do not know what the golden pages is, as it should be, it is an old-fashioned directory of businesses. It's about that thick. The old-fashioned, what we used to call a telephone book, when was the last time we saw a telephone book? Can't remember. However, this yellow thing, that's why it's called Yellow Pages, comes around and is dropped there. I have, well, first of all, I pick it up and I put it into my recyclable bin immediately. I do not know anybody. In fact, Emma, answer me this. This is me interviewing you now. Is when was the last time you looked at a telephone directory?
I moved house recently and I dumped about 6 of them. I can tell you that for sure. And actually, funny enough, I was doing some work with a business there a couple of years back, probably about 6 years ago now. And, the guy that sells, the sales guy for the Golden Pages came in, and I think it was like 3,500 or something he was looking for, just for like your bog standard. And I mean, I nearly fell off the chair, as to why you would be paying that money, good money. And like, to me, it could have gone on radio, it could have gone on the website, there was so many other ways that money could have been spent.
And that is the point, because you just mentioned the website. If I'm going to go back to my stoves, I Google stoves. I live in South County Dublin, so oddly enough, it's Stoves, South County Dublin. Up pops various websites, actually a lot of them out in Roscommon, Mayo, don't know why, but there you go. They have obviously done their job better at SEOing their websites. But here's the little tip about using social media. A blog. Everybody says, oh God, you've got a blog. People are really, many people are really afraid of blogging because they feel, oh God, I can't write. Mm-hmm. Thing is, and you know this, after 112 words, because people count this kind of stuff, 50%, half of your audience has already left you. Write a little story about something new in your business in maybe 200 words on a page that is about certainly less than half a page typewritten, probably about a third. And by the time that you've said, we have a new product, it is called the paper bag, well, that's almost half of your things gone. But the blog should be always alive, updated, something fresh put onto it. It could be, if you're local, it could be about something local that has just happened and that you or twist or knit something about your product or your service into it. I'm thinking of, say, local team wins. And you say, fantastic for local team, and we're delighted to have put in a stove for John Smith of that team. Now, you're not looking for his endorsement. You don't have to go and ask permission. You are saying, well done, John Smith, mm-hmm. and I'm delighted by touching you that I got something out of it. We had the Rugby International, Leinster Rugby and Ireland International, Jack McGrath, who played in the famous win over New Zealand. We had him on air just a few weeks ago, and we tweeted out immediately after that match to well done, Jack McGrath, Team SPS member. Now, he knows what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Saying positive things about him because he did brilliantly, but I'm also recognizing that we have a connection with him, and I am leveraging off him. Doesn't cost him anything, doesn't cost me anything, and that's on Twitter. And again, by simply linking your Twitter account to your website and to your various other things, it all is automated now. You don't have to spend any amount of time really doing a lot of this kind of work. Once you choose your favorite medium, I know Facebook is your favorite one. Twitter, the dying Twitter, it is unfortunately.
I use Twitter quite a lot actually.
Twitter is dying, unfortunately, but that is my absolute favorite, and I just link it to everything else. So it's dead easy. 10 seconds to tweet.
Yes, yeah.
And you are also, let's say that you're selling, animal feed. Well, you link up to other people who are interested in animal feed. So suddenly, just using Twitter, you're talking to your audience. Mm-hmm. And something interesting happens in animal feed. You tell them about it. Oh, mm-hmm. That's Emma. She's telling me about animal feed and changes in animal feed. Oh, she's nice. I'll go back to her.
Yeah. So it's relationship building, isn't it? Be it on the radio, Twitter, and whatnot.
Did I ever tell you I was a stockbroker once?
I think no, actually, I think you said briefly in your biography. So you're definitely going to have to tell us about that. That's a very traditional.
8 years of hardcore selling, because stockbrokers are selling nothing that they own or belongs to them. They're literally selling other people's stuff forever at all times. You come in the morning, you leave in the evening, and if you thought that there was another deal to be done, you'd stay until midnight, because it's just about the next sale and the next sale, and guess what? The next sale. And it's the same stuff you're selling all of the time. It isn't that anybody has reinvented a better Ryanair share. It's a Ryanair share that could be sold by a mouse, a cat, a rat, or a bat. You happen to be the stockbroker, you're selling it. And one of the reasons why a lot of people leave, as I did, stockbroking is, boy, it becomes tedious.
Yeah.
And you're saying the same thing day after day. But it does tell you or teach you an awful lot about how to get into people's heads about in selling. And you never sell them that Ryanair share or the Bank of Ireland share. You tell them stories. You teach them, tell them about something funny that happened during the weekend or something, and you chat away to them, and then you say, by the way, if you want any Ryanair shares, I happen to have a few of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I used to work a lot in sales myself, and actually, it's funny getting into the heads of people, because one of the guys I worked with, he was a stupendous salesperson, but he was a psychiatric nurse by profession. So interestingly, like obviously, he understood people and was able to be liked straight away and give value to people, and they really want, he got people to hand over €2,000 cash on a regular basis. But now he was a chronic gambler, unfortunately, as well, and that was one of his driving needs to get money. But in saying that, there was a lot to be learned from kind of understanding people, and like you say, the story. So it's not actually the selling part, and I think that's an important distinction. But just as well, Conall, I just mentioned about the PR side of things. If people are looking at their PR kit or whatever the case is there kind of like an overarching thing they should be looking at, we'll say, in terms of just generalized PR in their business?
We, in our chat here, I think we are talking about two small businesses, or with small businesses. Mm-hmm. We don't do people, do we? We talk with them. And one of the problems, and I find this myself, even in my own PR company, and with my clients, something takes over and PR gets dropped. And that something is called the business, the real bread and butter, the stuff that brings in the money that people PR. And it's left behind. And then suddenly, and I can anticipate it, there hasn't been any activity for 2 or 3 months. Suddenly it's the PR's fault.
Yes.
They weren't available. They were busy making money, which is what their job is. But activity, so that you have to, a bit like going to the gym or going for a regular walk, you have got to make a small amount of time for your PR all of the time. Once a week, 1 hour. Just give yourself anything. 1 hour is better than no hour. Mm-hmm. And then it has to be regularly updated. Now, people are going to say, but I have nothing new to say. That is so untrue. Mm-hmm. If they are beside somebody on the bus on the way home this evening and chat, and somebody says, anything happened today? There's always something happening. Mm-hmm. In every business. Prices are going up, prices are going down, getting harder to find staff problems, banking problems. There's always a story that you share. And you can say on your little blog, which will be your PR, because you don't have to pay people like me to do this, because most micro businesses are just too small, but that you just put up a little thing about your random thoughts, and they give a personality to your sweet shop or to your paper bag business, and that you will say, I've noticed that since the depths of the recession, when I got 100 CVs a day in, I'm now no longer getting them. In fact, I have a vacancy. If anybody knows a good salesperson, I could use a good salesperson in the northern side of the county or something like that. And that's a story in itself. And yet, say, oh, I have nothing to say. Yes, you have. You've just created. Now, how long did it take me to think of that? 5 seconds? And to write, it would take me, because you're not, come back to the figures again. Once you pass 112 words, half of them are gone. So there is, as I'm sure you know the stats, they say most blogs should be 450 words.
Mhm.
450 words. It's daft. People just are not going to read that stuff anymore. 300 words, fine. 300 words is that amount.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course there's the skill in actually getting across what you need to get across in a shortened amount of space and time.
And many of us have a son, a daughter, a cousin, an aunt, a brother, somebody. Many of us have, say, teachers who are in some way connected with the family. They can write stuff up. A little nixer. Give them a bag of sweets or
You're very fond of the sweet shops now, I have to say.
my generic go-to thing, because anybody could run a sweet shop. And whether anybody could run it. Actually, Michael O'Leary of Ryanair, that's what he started out in. Did you know that?
I didn't actually know that, no.
He ran one shop, became 6 shops for, I can't remember, did he take the lease himself, but that's where he cut his commercial teeth.
Okay. Because I know his brother, I used to work significantly in the horse industry. That's what I started off working in, and with racehorses, riding them out and various different things. And yeah, kind of buying and selling horses. So I'd have met his brother. Like, they're tough crowd, like as in they're fair, but you know, they know how to get a deal. They know how to kind of, you know, damn sure. But and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. Very personable as well, you know. And but I didn't know he started a sweet shop. That's interesting.
That's what he actually started off in, and then he went into worked with Ryan, the father of the current Ryan.
Tony Ryan, yeah.
Tony Ryan. That's where he then, and he's Tony Ryan said, I think the famous thing is either shut it down or give me some money, and they decided to keep it open. And I think he's aiming at 200 million passengers in the next couple of years. 200 million.
It's an amazing business success story, and actually I've read many case studies about it, and kind of he modeled some of it on the Western Airlines,
West.
Yes, exactly. In the States now, not quite the customer care aspect of it, perhaps, but
they love you now. They'll love you now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's changing as well, but it's interesting to see again that pivot. We'll say where he's changing and adapting to the environment, and obviously very successfully as well.
Successfully, yeah.
You know, so that's fantastic.
A man who is absolute top of his game, world class, and he was wise enough to recognize that they could do something better, i.e., treat people with a little bit of respect. And yes. He's quite a humble man, actually. I know he when he's doing the public show thing, but I meet him at meetings and things, and very, very affable, nice.
Yeah.
He's a job at the moment for he's looking for an assistant, and they actually literally now they have advertised it as being the world's worst job.
I like it. With the angle, they've got the angle. That's hilarious.
But I think that if you spent a year or two with Michael O'Leary, you would end up so knowledgeable.
Absolutely.
He would be whatever goes beyond the PhD in business.
Yeah, absolutely. The application of knowledge. After doing a master's, I can definitely tell, and I suppose I did things in reverse. I went back to college as a mature student. So it's interesting to see where people go and do it first, we'll say, and then do a degree afterwards, and vice versa, where they do a degree and then the application of the theory, where there's a slight difference sometimes, and a lot of those pivots and adjustments to the marketplace, surprisingly to some people, I think, which I always find interesting. So I'm just wondering, Conall, you have some fantastic gems of wisdom, which you said you wouldn't have any, but you do, you know, in terms of mentorship, in terms of putting themselves out there, in terms of having the story. I'm just kind of trying to sum up some notes I took there as you were speaking, because I think they're important for people to realize to, like you're saying, if you just spend an hour a week, you know, that you do have a story. You mightn't think there's a story, but just to think outside the box, what's maybe not interesting to you because you're part of it, it actually can be hugely interesting to other people. I like the idea of, you know, again, I suppose, putting yourself out there, not always waiting for people to come and find you because they may not do so.
I think I have to put across you there and say, they will not find you.
Okay, yeah. I'd be nice.
At the time.
Yeah.
We have signs above a shop to say, I am here, I am open. If you're
Yes.
not shouting at people, come on in.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's Fields is a jeweler on Grafton Street every Sunday morning after the program. I have my own little de-tune, de-stress
Right.
walk, and I walk down Grafton Street, and I tend not to buy anything, but I will go into shops. And there's Fields is an Irish owned jeweler, about 2/3 of the way down. And if you go anywhere near their watches, I was looking for a watch. A very nice young girl came out, and she had me dragged in 2 seconds. She was brilliant at just saying, "Oh, do you want to see that one there?" I said, "No, not really." "Oh, no, I tell you what now, it's really nice on. You should see it on. Hey, etc."
Yes.
Drew me in, and you've got to go out there. This is a young girl now,
Yes.
so not hardened and seasoned like myself. So I love those young people who have learnt or who have the nous, or to whom maybe it comes automatically. I think mum and dad have a lot to do with that, is to make them self-confident, to make sure that they are happy, and that they understand as well that they've got to just go out there and hustle.
Yes. Yeah.
Hard hustle, but say, "Hi, my name is Mary, and would you like to buy a watch?"
Yeah. I think that actually that's the core of being an entrepreneur, actually. And I think if people learn nothing else from today, I think it is important to put yourself out there, and that's what it's about. Be it on the radio, that it's in the newspaper. Obviously, you've got your website and whatnot, but you're constantly trying to drive traffic towards your website, towards your shop. I mean, just having a shop, just having a website in isolation isn't actually enough. Like you're saying, that girl, you have to come out and say, "Hey, come on in." I think it was at the Body Shop, Anita Roddick, she initially actually baked bread to actually draw, because the smell of bread, psychologically speaking, would draw people into the shop. Super Value here in Ireland do that on a regular basis. So there's some known, you can call them tricks, but really it's about understanding your customers and actually guiding them, if you will, towards you, as opposed to standing there waiting.
We had a company on the radio program about 4 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago now, and their business is, can't remember if they're based on the West Coast somewhere. Their business is creating smells for business.
Okay, I like it. Yeah.
Have. It's only another one of our kind of sayings on the program is you'd only hear it on the Sunday Business Show, because we find these obscure businesses. How did somebody sit down and say, "I will start a business making smells for business"? And it's a successful, pity I can't remember the name, because otherwise I would give them a shout out, because they are Team SBS, you see.
Yeah, I'll have to come back, get that. And actually, interestingly enough, I was at Samantha Kelly. I don't know if you know her, the tweeting goddess.
You know her very well. She's now a Team SBS member.
Oh, good stuff.
I worked with her on various projects.
Yeah, she's great. And we've done a couple of things together as well. And I was at her event in Dublin there recently. And another lady I know who has the Irish Health Hour, I don't know if you've met Dolores Andrew Gavin. And she does oils as well. And she said, I have a strategy oil. And it's a smell as well. And I was like, "What do you have?" I was so surprised. So I was like, wow, I actually could send that to clients. That's brilliant.
And you got it. And did you buy it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, it just never occurred to me to have strategy oil. It just did not even enter my head.
And it was that she has identified that as something unique. You're talking to me about it, and I'm thinking to myself, that'd be an interesting item for the radio show. And that is how we pick up items for the radio show, because we want the unusual. She got you, you're getting me. It's gone around in a nice little circle.
Yeah. But again, that's that story, where you're literally just talking to somebody. And she had other ones as well, but that's the one that kind of, I suppose, that I remember just because it was relevant to me. But I know there was other interesting ones she had as well. And actually, she's doing a global health summit. She's just into health and whatnot. So it's interesting kind of how businesses can operate, and hook you in.
I won't go into it because this is a family show, but we did about a scent shop which is in the Paris Court Town Centre, and my former producer, a lovely woman called Myra Hayes, went and interviewed the woman in that scent shop, which is called, I should remember. But it is available, I'm sure, on the podcast, Today FM. You just look up scent, and it'll come up, and it's, you won't believe that there is such a scent, and how anybody thought about it, and how it has become to be made. As I say again, you'd only hear it on the Sunday Business Show.
Sounds intriguing. You've intrigued me now.
Question. So todayfm.com will find all of our podcasts.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. And definitely, guys, Conall has shared some real gems of wisdom there. I think as an entrepreneur himself, a managing director of a PR company, a stalwart of Irish media, and indeed, you've done a lot of work for the UK with the BBC and whatnot as well. So, and is writing about business and economics for many years. So I think we're very privileged to have you on the Marketing Success Summit. So thank you so much, Conall. I really do appreciate these wonderful stories and gems of wisdom that you've shared with the audience today.
You said that you worked in sales. I can see that. That was a very nice sign off.
Thank you. I don't know where it comes from. It just comes out. But I think it's just years of just pulling things like that together. But yeah, it is great. And it's www.todayfm.com. And you're looking for the business show. Is that how people will search it?
Well, we have a new website. Literally, I'm taking photographs, or my photograph has been taken tomorrow for new photographs for the new website. So probably by the time this goes up, there should be a brand new website. So I presume it'll be super duper to find it, easy to find us.
Okay.
We're under weekend shows. But look at the great Google machine will always find.
Yes, yeah. But just in case, because sometimes people find, when they're not used to navigating websites, it can be kind of you don't want to ever stop people coming to you just because they can't find you. And I suppose the other thing as well is your Twitter handle. Just to remind people again.
At Conall O.M. Morain, Conall O.M. And if you want some pretty eclectic tweets, because I will tweet about, I love cars, I love architecture, I love culture, I love the Irish language, I love so many things, plus the whole heap of business stuff as well. Okay. So you'll kind of begin to see the weird and wonderful mind that lives underneath this little bald patch here.
That sounds great.
It's kind of scary sometimes.
And can we just remind people as well, times for your show on Sunday morning? Because again, we've got people in the States, which are, if you're on the East Coast, you're 5 hours behind. As you mentioned, some people are getting up early in the morning. If they're on the West Coast, they're probably 8-9 hours behind. We've got people in Australia who'll be 12-11 hours ahead. So we're London BST time. So what BST time?
GMT now, aren't we? Because we've moved from
GMT. I always get muddled up with those two.
BST is British summertime, so we're now out of summer, we're now into winter.
Yes.
It's GMT, so we are 10 a.m. GMT. The only thing is, though, is that the whole idea about time is kind of, you don't have to bother with it anymore, because they could just listen back.
Yeah.
We're on iTunes, we're on all of the platforms. It'll download automatically. It'll be on your phone. There'll be an item you don't like, you skip through it. You get to an item about odd smells, and you'll not listen to that, and then you move on again, and you don't have to listen to advertising.
Okay. And for anyone that wants to contact you or would like to be on the show and feels that they do have an interesting angle, how can they contact you?
Really easily. Business at todayfm.com. Business at todayfm.com. That goes straight to me and straight to the producer, a new producer, Ruth Devaney, and we do pick up ideas, suggestions, etc. from there. And while we are on air, we do a thing called the famous shout out. And the famous shout out is our way of brand building and building a loyal following. And we will shout out for people, but it only works while we are on air. And at that stage, it's live at todayfm.com. Live as in we are alive. Live, L-I-V-E, but that you have to get out of your bed to do that. That's 10 a.m. until 11 o'clock, because that comes straight into studio, comes straight into me.
Okay.
Read it, and if you keep it really short, and if you mention this that you saw or that you watched this show, this podcast, or what do you call these things?
If you're looking at a recording, it's a podcast.
What is this? It's called. What am I doing now?
This I'm doing. It's a summit, so it's an online summit. So
what is the recording? Is it? It's not a podcast, is it? It's a.
No, I just refer to this, I guess, as a recording. So it's pre-recorded. So it's just a recording. So I guess because there's video.
Videocast. So if anybody is watching this videocast, and if they mention the videocast, and if they mention Emma, I will make sure that it'll get top of the pile.
Great.
So send in live at todayfm.com. Say, I was only watching you and your bald head on the other day, and I would like one of your, have to use famous shout out, and I'll see what I can do. We are always jammed. In fact, I had somebody today saying that we should have 2 hours because we are just so jam-packed, but we do try to keep it busy, and as I mentioned, even if we get 10 seconds or 20 seconds of a shout out for somebody's happy. Somebody goes off to Sunday lunch happier than they were beforehand.
Absolutely. And that's again about building relationships. So again, thank you so much, Conall. Thank you for joining us. Again, guys, you've met an absolute stalwart man of media today. So I hope you've picked up lots of gems of wisdom. Please do email him, tell him you've listened and what you've learned today. And because I think you'd appreciate that, Conall. And again, thank you so very much.
Let me use a little bit of the Gaeilge, that's my first language, my Irish language, to Fáilte Roimh. You are most welcome, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Conall.